Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really sprawling, kind of mind-bending conversation between a documentary filmmaker and a CIA quantum physicist. We are going to be looking at the alleged government cover-up of non-human intelligence, the actual physics that might make it possible, and, yeah, even government-funded psychic spies. Okay, let's just dive right into the core of this massive claim right away. According to the whistleblowers cited in our source material, high-level intelligence officials are asserting that there has been an 80-year cover-up regarding the existence of non-human intelligent life. And it gets wilder. They claim we've actually recovered advanced crafts, and get this, in some cases, the bodies of the non-humans that were inside them. So naturally, we gotta ask, are we on the brink of disclosure here? With recent presidential directives instructing federal agencies to start declassifying evidence, like, that famous 1972 Apollo mission photo that seemingly shows a massive triangle craft over the moon, it really feels like we have to wonder if the public is finally about to learn the truth. Section 1. The 80-year cover-up. Our source outlines this timeline, and it's pretty fascinating. It kicks off with the infamous 1947 Roswell crash and its alleged recovery. Then, decades later, we jump to the highly publicized 2004 Navy Tic Tac incident, where a craft was seen executing physically impossible maneuvers. In 2008, a government program called OASCP was started specifically to investigate these kinds of phenomena. But by 2010, OASCP lost its funding. Why? Well, the source claims there was intense bureaucratic pushback from a completely hidden legacy program that had been operating way outside of congressional oversight since the 1940s. Now, what's really interesting here is the bureaucratic logic behind all this secrecy. It basically comes down to three things. First, officials were allegedly in this high-stakes Cold War race to reverse engineer the tech before Russia or China could get their hands on it. Second, they wanted to avoid public panic in a really volatile post-World War II era. And third, and this is wild, to protect the secret, they intentionally manufactured a cultural stigma in the 1950s, basically making UFOs seem ridiculous just to discourage any serious scientific inquiry.
Section 2. The physics of UAPs.
Okay, so if these crops are real, how do they literally defy our understanding of gravity and momentum? Well, the physicists in the source argue that standard human physics actually theoretically accounts for, these movements. Using Maxwell's and Einstein's equations, space-time manipulation is theoretically possible for us. But the difference is, UAPs actually possess the advanced material sciences to execute it. They are actively modifying the effective speed of light around their crafts. So, the secret sauce? It's a warp bubble. It's basically a localized energy field that bends space-time completely around a craft, totally isolating it from the external environment. And this brilliantly explains how they achieve transmedium travel, dropping from 80,000 feet into the ocean in a matter of seconds without a single splash, because the water literally never even touches the craft itself. And honestly, this warp bubble concept completely explains why UAP photos are notoriously blurry. The source gives us this fantastic visual analogy. Think about trying to photograph a koi fish through the distorting, rippling surface of a pond. The space-time barrier bends the light in the exact same way, making clear, crisp photography practically impossible, no matter how good your camera is. Section 3. The motivation behind secrecy. So, why are they actually hovering around, seemingly monitoring us? The source details a highly concerning pattern. UAPs seem to be heavily attracted to our nuclear footprint. At U.S. missile sites, they've reportedly hovered and just remotely turned the missiles off. Meanwhile, over at Soviet bases, they reportedly initiated the actual launch countdown process, sending the base into a total panic for 15 agonizing seconds before just stopping. To explain this sudden and intense interest, the source gives us a really powerful analogy. We are essentially like ants in a backyard. For generations, we were completely ignored. But then, we cracked the atom. Suddenly, we technologically evolved to a point where we effectively marched right into their living room as a potential threat. It definitely seems our nuclear capabilities are what truly put us on their radar. Section 4. The CIA Remote Viewing Program. As we peel back another layer, we have to ask, did the CIA actually use psychic spies? Well, yes. Back in the 1970s, realizing the Soviets were funding extrasensory perception research, the CIA basically decided they couldn't be left behind. So they launched Stargate, a highly classified program to see if the human mind could literally traverse the globe to gather intelligence. And according to the CIA quantum physicists interviewed, these weren't just parlor tricks. They had massive, documented successes. Take this example. First, the target assigned is a downed Soviet plane completely lost somewhere in Africa. Next, a trained military remote viewer sits in a room and just focuses their mind's eye on the continent. Finally, they generate coordinates. Out of hundreds of thousands of square miles, they placed the crash within a 3-mile radius, which allowed the CIA to swoop in and recover the plane. Absolutely wild. And to prove to the skeptics that this wasn't just a total fluke, a group of remote viewers was challenged by an investor to predict daily silver futures in the stock market. Just betting on whether silver would go up or down over 30 days, their psychic predictions successfully generated $260,000. Okay, so how does this tie back to physics and potentially UAPs? The physicists suggest this remote viewing ability might actually be tied directly to quantum entanglement. Astonishingly, remote viewers were documented successfully pausing the oscillation of a superconducting magnetically shielded quantum chip. Think about that for a second. That means human consciousness was observed directly interacting with heavily shielded quantum devices that were supposed to be completely isolated from any outside influence. It implies the human mind is capable of interacting with the universe in ways we are literally only just beginning to grasp.
Section 5. A universe teeming with life.
So what's the ultimate philosophical conclusion of all these sprawling claims? Honestly, the numbers are just staggering. Based on Oxford University research cited in the source, within the universe's trillion galaxies, up to 100,000 planets per galaxy could potentially host life. Statistically speaking, looking at the sheer math of it all, it is probabilistically inconceivable that we are flying solo out here. And the crucial point here is the potential impact of full disclosure. If the government actually reveals what it allegedly knows, it could trigger a technological boom completely unlike anything in human history. We could see revolutionized global energy sources that literally solve the energy crisis overnight. It could lead to the birth of anti-gravity tech and interstellar travel. And, perhaps most beautifully, it could unify humanity, highlighting our shared commonalities over our petty differences when faced with a vast universe, which is an idea President Reagan famously proposed at the UN. Which really leaves us with one final, totally profound thought to take away from this explainer. If the universe is indeed teeming with life, how will that reality force us to redefine what it means to be human? It challenges absolutely everything we think we know about our place in the cosmos. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. And as always, keep asking the big questions.